Hi everyone, welcome to day 24 of the 30-day program. Today is the fourth day of the transform phase, and I want to talk about transforming our mindset or the way that we think. So let's do that by talking about the power of thought. Okay, so our thoughts are each associated with a vibrational energy. And this vibrational energy emits a frequency that can actually be measured when we think different things. So the word emotion is actually energy in motion. And positive, uplifting thoughts have a much higher vibrational energy than negative or degrading thoughts. So the thoughts that we have can actually change the biochemistry of our body. And the way that we think affects the way that we feel. And we are what we think we are. So if we believe something, then typically that is true. And this is why the placebo effect is very popular and is typically measured, because if we believe something to be true, then more often than not, it is true, and our brains think it to be true, because our brains don't know the difference between something that actually happened and something that we think happened. Okay, so now I want to talk about the power of thought, and this relates to the biochemistry of our body and how thought can actually change how our body works. So Masaru Emoto is a Japanese researcher and author, and he wrote the book Messages from Water. And essentially what he did was he conducted a series of experiments in order to determine how the actual physical properties of water would change after being exposed to different things like prayers, words, and even different environmental conditions. And after he exposed the water to these different things, he then froze them and looked at them under a microscope, and he saw these snowflake-like crystals. And then he compared the higher vibrational thoughts with the lower vibrational thoughts. So the one shown here, love, that's a very high vibrational thought. So he basically just thought of love, and this was the result. And then he did the same thing, and he just said thank you to this water droplet. And then he looked at that under the microscope, and this is what that looked like. And then he went to the other side of the spectrum, and he said the word evil. And the energy associated with evil caused the water droplet to look like this. And then the last one that he did, he said, "You disgust me," to the actual water droplet, and this is what it looked like. So you can see the difference between the high vibrational, which is very organized, very beautiful, and the lower vibrational thoughts, which is not organized and kind of very chaotic. So you can actually check out some of Emoto's other water experiments. He did this with a lot of different things, and anything that you would consider negative or that might have a negative thought associated with it had very similar results, just very chaotic, very ugly in a sense, and anything that was positive, very high vibrational, was absolutely beautiful and resembled more like a snowflake. So you can look at these on Google, or you can go to Masaru's actual website, which is masaruemoto.net. Is www.masaru-emoto.net, and you'll find different words or phrases that he exposed these water droplets to. Okay, so I can't talk about the power of thought without talking about the law of attraction, because like attracts like. So we have these different thoughts, and they have these vibrational energies associated with them. And what happens is, since the law of attraction, which has been studied by metaphysicians and even through quantum physics, and there's a lot of evidence to show that this law of attraction actually exists, which is why it's the law, because when you test something over and over again and the same conclusion comes up, it ultimately becomes a law. So like attracts like, and different thoughts that we have with different vibrational energy actually attracts the same vibrational energy. So it's not as simple as saying in your mind, I want a car, or, I want a handsome young man to come and whisk me away and drive me off into the sunset. So it doesn't work for physical things, but it does work when we actually start to think about the feeling that's associated with that physical thing. So if we think of our dream car, and we love this car is amazing, and we think, I want this car. But if we actually start thinking about the feeling that's associated with having that car, more often than not, the feeling will show up, but that particular car may or may not show up. Sometimes it does. And this is why vision boards are extremely popular. So we are actually going to do a vision board, which is one of your assignments for today. So what happens with a vision board, and I'll explain this a little bit more later when I go over what the vision board is, but basically you're putting these things that look visually appealing to you or that resemble some kind of feeling, and you end up manifesting those particular things either exactly how they are on your vision board or in a slightly different way. And we'll talk about that more, but that's why vision boards are extremely powerful. So it's important to note that we live in the world that we are thinking of. We live in the world that we are thinking of. So if we believe something to be true, it's true. If we think something's true, it's true. So that's why our thoughts are incredibly powerful, because we control our own realities. And I just want you to ponder and think about that for a second. We control our own realities. And I want you to think about a time when you were so incredibly happy. And I want you to think about what happened during that time. I would bet that the time when you were extremely happy, that nothing went wrong. It seemed like everything was going right, and you were kind of maybe walking on eggshells because everything was just going so perfectly and the stars were aligning and everything was beautiful and wonderful. That's the law of attraction. So when we find something that makes us extremely happy, it puts us into that extremely happy mindset, and then all of a sudden, more happy things start happening to us. That brings me to this slide. Our thoughts create everything. So there are two ways to think about things. We can think about things through a lens of scarcity, which basically, starts with phrases like I need, I want, I can't, or I don't have. And that's putting us in a mindset of we don't have something, we want something. And usually, if we start thinking about things in terms of scarcity, it attracts more things in terms of scarcity. So just saying, I want this, doesn't fulfill that particular thought. It just keeps us in that area of wanting. And so we're just going to continue to want something, and it's never going to show up. So then the other type of mindset is a mindset of abundance. And these are thoughts like I have, I am, I can. They're much more powerful. And so when we start to think about things in terms of what we have, what we are, and what we can do, then we find that more of those types of things start to show up. And not only that, but we are so much more appreciative of what we do have, of what we are, and what we can do. And so when we make that shift between those two mindsets, between the scarcity mindset to the abundance mindset, that, my friends, is empowerment. That's the transformation. So how can we shift from out of our scarcity of I need, I want, I don't have enough money, I really need this money, I need to find a job to make more money, I want this, I want blah, blah, blah. How can we switch from scarcity to abundance? Well, in a simple sense, we can just change the thoughts from I need to I have, from I want to I have, from I can't to I can. But there are other tools that we can use to help us or help this process along. So here's how we change our thoughts. One thing we can do is just start to become more aware of our thoughts. So every time we say or we think I need or I want or I can't, then to literally in your mind say, no, just kidding, instead of I want, say I have. So to make that slight shift from scarcity to abundance in the way that we think. Another thing that you can do is to work on really developing your spiritual practice, because that will really help to sift through all of the junk that might be in your mind and to get to what your true desires are or what your basic underlying truth is, and it will help to empower you and to shift from scarcity to abundance. You could also process emotions with a therapist, coach, or write them down in your journal, because even if you are really great at thinking about things from a mindset of abundance, you still will have negative emotions. So the better that you're able to process them, the better you'll be able to make that shift consciously out of the scarcity into the abundance. And the better you're able to process those negative emotions, the easier it is to make that shift. You could also use positive affirmations to help to shift from scarcity to abundance. So these are types of things that start with I can, I am, I have. So sentences that start with that, and literally say them out loud, write them down, tell them to yourself in the mirror. Whatever you need to do, use these positive affirmations. They can be extremely powerful. And then allow yourself to experience more positive emotions. So do things that bring you joy. Do things that bring you peace. Do things that empower you. And of course, I can't get through a module without talking about stress. Reducing stress can literally change your thoughts, because stress shuts down the part of our brain that allows us to think clearly. And so if we are not able to think clearly, we're under a lot of stress, then we're not able to change our thoughts. So reducing stress is extremely important. So changing your thoughts can change your outlook, your philosophy, your attitude, your mindset, and your life. All right, so your homework is to begin to create a vision board. And I've included some instructions for you separately, so you can read through those instructions, start to create your vision board. It's an extremely fun thing, and it's a way to kind of unleash your creativity and at the same time begin to manifest the things in your life that you'd like to see. Okay, so that's all we have for today. Thanks.